Hey friends, hey villain listeners. Thanks for downloading this episode. This would be episode 7 of the Villain District podcast. We really appreciate it. Really quickly, before we get into the goodies of the episode, just want to thank everybody who checked out our newest Villain District video called Choke Out the Sun. It was, we were happy with the response, and it's still up there. If you haven't seen it yet, please go check it out. It was the last in the 4-part Monstrosity series, and so that whole playlist is up, so go check that out on YouTube or check it out on the Villain District Facebook, the Monstrosity playlist. Hopefully you guys enjoyed Mr. James Bell being on the podcast last time. We know we had a great time recording that with him, so hopefully you guys got a kick out of that. This time we're going to do something a little bit different. Me and Joe got together, and as you may or may not know, we're sort of huge comic book nerds, and so we decided this week what we were going to do is start a new series. We were going to start a new series called Picturebook Pastime, and with this first one, we're going to talk about comics in this little series. And so with this first one, we decided we would each take what we consider our top 5 comics and sit down and chat about them. And you know, these don't stand for all time, but we would these are the ones we decided to pick this week. So we're going to sit and chat about comics, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. This one was kind of for us, so we get a little bit nerdy. So hopefully you guys will be into it. If you're reading comics, if you like our lists or don't like our lists, or would like to change them or suggest something to us or tell us we got something wrong or whatever, feel free to throw a comment up on the post for this episode, or shoot us an email at villaindistrict@gmail.com. One last announcement is that coming up is going to be a new series, starting a new series of songs from Villain District. That will be a little ways off, but we'll be letting you know as it gets closer, so be on the lookout for that kind of thing. So thanks again for downloading this episode, and we hope you enjoy it. Spin it!
Are you ready? 'Cause here it comes.
Alrighty.
So, today here at the here in the studio is just Will and I.
Yep.
It's
just 2.
the smallest
Podcast we've done.
smallest group.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why that is.
Yeah.
Because today's subject matter.
Yeah. There's a reason.
There's just the 2 of us. Well, first I'm going to tell you what Chris thinks of comic books.
Yep.
He met, let's see, he said this several times, but the last time that kind of rings true in my memory,
Yeah.
Will and I went to The Great Escape one evening, and the next day
Which is our comic shop.
That's our
here
comic
in town.
shop here in Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know we're talking about them, but today's episode is brought to you by The Great Escape.
No, it's just we're just talking about them.
We're just talking about them.
They can pay for that privilege.
Yep. So we were there one night, and the next night we were driving down to Berea or Richmond to my sister's baby shower.
Yeah, that's right.
And Chris had met us there at Great Escape because he wasn't able to make it to the baby shower, but he was giving me a gift for my sister.
That's right.
And we grabbed the gift, and as I was walking back...
First of all, we didn't meet in the shop.
No, outside of the shop.
Yeah, Chris parks outside.
Yeah, and as I was walking back, as Will and I were walking back to my car, I heard, "Enjoy your picture books."
Just disdain on his voice.
So he's not here with us.
Picture books.
He doesn't have much to contribute, but I will tell you that he completely informed the name of the segment.
Yeah, he did.
Which I came up with about 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to call it Picturebook Pastime.
Picturebook Pastimes. That's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Or Pastimes or Time.
Pastime or Times. I don't know. We'll see what it looks like.
Your favorite pastime is baseball.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And baseball is one of the greatest pastimes.
That's true. So picture books are comic books are one pastime.
Right, singular.
Picturebook Pastime. Yeah, no, I like that. Yeah, and so rest assured, everybody listening, we're not going to just sit here and just bemoan the fact that Chris doesn't read comic books.
And we're not going to say, we really like these, though.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, and what I'm thinking is, I've made maybe 2 genuine attempts to get Chris into comics. So I may make a few more. We'll see.
Sure, yeah.
We'll see. He may find it yet.
Yeah.
Who knows?
This will be a segment we do somewhat regularly.
Yeah.
I know Jake, he has read 1 or 2 issues of some comic books.
Yeah. he's read a little more than that, right? He got into Walking Dead for a while.
Yeah, he did read several of the Walking Dead Dead compendiums. Is that what they're called? Compendiums?
I think so, yeah. The big copies of the books with like 40 issues in one single object. Object? How do you say that? I don't know. One single book. Yeah. Compendiums.
James would be a good guest as well.
Yeah.
I know he reads some Captain America.
Yeah.
I know he recently bought the new Star Wars #1, the Marvel reboot, or not reboot, but the Marvel canon.
Yeah.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
But today, since you and I partner up and do a lot of comic book stuff, we thought we would try out the first segment that is comic book related, Picturebook Pastime.
Yeah.
With our top 5 favorite picks.
Top 5 favorite picks.
Of all time.
And so this is, number 1, obviously this is difficult, right?
Yeah.
We've both read a ton of comic books.
Yeah, you can, basically you can take my list and say, oh, he really likes those, but they're not my top 5. I can't do it.
Sure, of course.
Some of my picks are like, I felt obligated almost, just to the medium.
Yeah, I understand.
And some of my picks were like, I'm going to throw some curveballs just for fun because I really like these, but they may not be considered
the best.
right?
Yeah, of course. So. I sort of tried to avoid my instinct. There were a couple that I have that I want to just mention that were sort of honorable mentions, but that I felt like I should mention, but I didn't want to put them on my list. But yeah, so when we were saying sort of this is going to be our top 5 comics list, right? Just to kind of kick off this area of discussion in the podcast, not top 5 issues. So for those people who are maybe not as into comic books, you have individual issues, which are just the little $3 or $4
how many was
20
it 20
page
21 22 page?
It's what you think of when you think of a comic book, right? It's just a little floppy book, but we don't mean that necessarily. We just mean like a series,
like a run, a story run.
Yeah, for sure. So
a couple of mine on my list. Well, yeah, a couple of mine on my list are bigger groups. Yeah. So they're not just
absolutely
a single trade or whatever. I'm about to coffee burp.
Yeah. It's been an episode or 2 since you did one of those, so that's good.
It's been like 3 episodes.
It's good. It's good to get back into the habit. But so anyway, but also one thing I want to say about this before we jump in is maybe spoiler alert. I don't.
Yep.
I'm going to try to avoid that, but I can't promise. So I would suggest that these 10 that we talk about, and even the honorable mentions, go out and read these if you haven't read them because they're super good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, and if
what my dad and I always tell each other whenever we get new news about who's making what movie or show or whatever. Yeah, it's a good time to be a comic book fan.
Oh, it really is. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, as we do more of these, I think your idea of Jake, it would be a good person to have on. James would be a good person to have on. So it's not always necessarily, even if Chris doesn't get into comic books, it's not always necessarily just going to be me and you talking about this. And it could be a cool way to get some discussion with whoever's listening to this out there.
Yeah.
What are you reading that you enjoy, or what do you disagree with us about
Sure.
this?
And we could easily kind of fall into maybe the Marvel Cinematic Universe and what they're doing, or
absolutely.
The Batman versus Superman news and that kind of stuff.
A lot of stuff to talk about nerd-wise.
Lots of stuff to just nerd all over.
Absolutely, it's wonderful. Well, let's get into it then. Let's talk about them.
Should we go like 5, 4, 3? Are yours like in order?
No, I've put mine in a particular order, but it's not my like least favorite to most favorite. It's just the order I want to talk about them in.
Okay.
So, do you have a least to most favorite? Did you try to do that? That was just too hard for me to even try, so I didn't even.
Well, essentially, like I picked 5 things.
Yeah.
And I kind of ordered them in the order of. Yeah, I mean, I completely like my top 2 are like staple.
Your top 2 are your 2 favorites?
No, they're just
or they're just staples.
They're supposed to be your favorites.
They're supposed to be up there. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And
I could
bottom,
guess what those are, but we'll see. We'll see if I'm right.
I don't know. I don't know if
okay, cool.
You might guess one, but
nice. Okay. Well, let's jump into it then. We'll go back and forth. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first? Either way is fine.
You go ahead.
Okay, well, to kick off my 5, I'm going to go to, if I had to number these, this might be my top, but I can't really do that. I don't know. I could say that about all these. It's Batman Year One,
of course,
by Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli. I love this book so much. It's actually 4 issues, I think. 4 issues or 5 issues? I should know that.
It's 4.
It's 4. Okay.
I want to say my dad has all the originals graded. Maybe
that's amazing. Yeah, I have a first issue of the run, but it's not graded or anything. But yeah, I have a tattoo of some of the art in this book.
You really do.
This book is just fantastic. It follows the first. I mean, it's called Year One, and it tracks the first year of Batman's career as Batman, or Bruce Wayne's career as Batman.
And he's like, it's like an adolescent kind of Batman. He's like, learning how to do it. Yeah, absolutely. And it's got all these moments in it that were new at the time, but have just become staples, right? Yeah.
Like the bat crashing through the window in the way that it does.
Yep.
Like it had done that before, but the scene, if you are into Batman and you think about it, this is the scene you're thinking of. And also, another reason I love this story and this run is because it's a James Gordon story.
James Gordon.
Yes, it's not just Batman. It's very grounded, and it's very it's a crime story, and it's about James Gordon and Batman and how they come together in order to fight sort of this corrupt system in Gotham. And
what's interesting to me about Year One is that Frank Miller went on to make some pretty controversial choices in his hero books and, like Sin City, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And there are some things in that book that kind of scratch that itch of what Frank Miller, I guess, became, right?
Absolutely.
And those are the kind of things that really kind of ground this Batman in reality.
Absolutely.
Because when Batman Year One came out, anybody who was reading comics back in the 80s, like that, I think that comic book came out in
87, something like that. 6 or 7. Yeah.
And that's when we were born.
Yeah.
But I remember my dad's talked about it, and he said, "Whoa!" He's like, you wouldn't believe what it was like to go by Year One, because at that time, the world was still kind of had that kind of weird taste in their mouth from Adam West,
the '66 Batman,
and even after that, there were Batmans that were just trying to do what Year One did, but couldn't really shake that goofiness, like
cartoonish.
Anyone who read Year One was like, "Oh, this is cool to be a Batman fan right now." When that came out,
absolutely, it sort of goes way back to like Batman's origins of like the sort of pulp crime story, very gritty and whatnot. And then, of course, obviously, it's a clear influence on Tim Burton and his take,
completely informed
right?
his take.
I mean, 3 years later, or 2 years, or however many, a few years later, you have Batman with Michael Keaton, which is sort of dark and whatnot. And then Nolan, Batman Begins there's a lot of Year One in there. So,
And, Catwoman in that story is a prostitute, right?
That's right,
So that's just another one of Frank Miller's little bazinga! Like I'm kind of reshaping this character. And that's one of the things that Scott Snyder later comes back and for this new generation of Batman fans, they just kind of had to redo 0 year. They had to make a new origin to fit the canon now.
To fit now,
not that year one doesn't count, because it will always count as one of the greatest Batman stories ever told.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great. But you have to update it with, there are new concerns. It's a new time in society, and it needs a new Batman, So anyway, so that's my first one. I don't want to go on too long about it.
I guess I'm gonna start backwards. And work my way up to what I feel is number one.
Okay. All right.
So my number 5, it's funny that you picked what you picked, because mine's Batgirl year one.
Oh, nice. Nice.
And I contemplated whether or not that this story should go on there. For whatever reason, I've always just really dug the Barbara Gordon character.
Absolutely.
And as sissy as it is to say, I'm a huge Batgirl fan.
Oh, totally.
I don't know what it is.
She's fantastic.
But and when I read that story, it was just a page turner for me. Like it doesn't have that grit that is Batman year one. But it calls back to I guess a more innocent time.
Sure.
Without being campy, if that makes sense.
It's not silly.
Right.
Yeah.
And that book for Barbara Gordon as a character was completely necessary, because her origin was kind of unclear for a long time, depending on what you read, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
So that was written by Scott Beatty, I think. Beatty or Beatty?
Yeah, yes. Scott Beatty or Beatty, yeah.
But it was a great story.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say, I don't know, I think it informed Batman the Animated Series as well.
It had a very similar aesthetic to it. I'm
not sure which came out first.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know.
But, essentially, spoiler, in that story, Barbara Gordon is rebelling against her father, James Gordon.
Okay.
Gets this Batman costume and goes to this ball kind of as a rebellion against her dad, right?
Yeah.
And then, stuff goes down, and they're like, there's a
somebody attacks the party that she's at in costume, and so she jumps into action, right? And
and I don't really know what it is about that story that I really like. And again, like, I don't know that it's actually one of my top 5 favorite comic books of all time.
Sure, I mean, it's hard to...
But I really wanted to mention it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, if we did this weekly, number one, it would get super boring doing it over and over. Yep. But also, these would change, Yep,
they would.
So absolutely. It's just, this is this week, what we could think of. But yeah, that was a great run. It's been a while since I've read it.
Yep,
very good.
Batgirl year one.
Okay, so my second pick, again, mine are in not really a particular order. I've kind of spaced them out, so I'm not talking about the same characters or whatever over and over. So my second one is Captain America: The Winter Soldier by Ed Brubaker, and many people will know there was just a movie that came out.
Yep.
Pretty... I would say loosely based on the comic run. I mean, a lot of similarities, but... It took the Winter Soldier story in the comics,
and form fitted it to the MCU,
the movie universe.
The arc that was taking place there. Yeah. So some characters kind of got switched around, and in the Winter Soldier book, the villain was someone else. But
exactly. But this book is just great. I mean, Ed Brubaker is he's gonna end up having several spots on my top 5.
Sure.
He's my favorite creator or writer easily. But nevertheless, Winter Soldier is just such a good run for Captain America. It's the one that really made me love the character. And the setup is, and this is spoilery, is that there's this sort of KGB sort of Soviet assassin who's operating, who Cap has to sort of track down and whatnot. And it turns out it's Bucky, his sort of partner and best friend from the World War II era, who's sort of been brainwashed and whatnot.
Yeah, and this kind of era of comic books where writers like Frank Miller and Ed Brubaker, they really tried to get.
There you go.
You hear that? That was gross.
Yeah.
They really tried to take these characters and these stories to a really kind of grounded, gritty, realistic environment. So like, there was a second Bucky, right, who replaced the first.
I think so.
I want to say at some point, Captain America and Bucky both got replaced.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Other characters. Yeah. And that second Bucky plays a part.
That's right.
In Winter Soldier.
In Winter Soldier, yes.
I think he's assassinated, right?
Yeah, he went on to be Nomad. Is that right?
Yeah.
Or was he the one? I can't remember if Nomad was used to be Cap or used to be Bucky, but yeah, they. Yes.
So
that's accurate.
It's just it's a complicated story.
Yeah. It's a sort of political thriller. I mean, it's kind of like the movie was in that aspect. It deals with questions of, you have a character named Captain America, who comes out of clearly sort of World War II propaganda in favor of America, right? The cover of Captain America 1 is him punching Hitler in the face.
Yep.
And so I just think it's a really cool character because it's interesting to take that character and question, well, what does it mean to be Captain America, right? I mean, hidden like within stories involving that character are questions about what it means to be America, right?
Sure.
What does America mean? What's the point? Or how do we see ourselves? Yeah.
The greatest generation.
Yeah.
And I just realized the book I really should have added because I was going to mention, Captain America and the Punisher in Civil War, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. That's on my honorable mentions for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll get into that. So Captain America Winter Soldier, fantastic run. Ed Brubaker, it's just an awesome great. Story. Yep. So that's two of mine.
And I also just realized I'm going to have to double up on a character on one of my lists because I just have to.
That's fine.
I'm breaking the rules hard.
I triple up on my on characters, so as you'll see. But anyway, go ahead.
So number 4.
Yeah.
Again, I'm keeping my first two as more so.
Sort of nods to what you're supposed to do, or recognition, or something like that.
I mean, I'm sorry, the first two I'm mentioning.
I see.
So my last two,
I understand. Yeah.
They're more just like I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed these books.
Yeah.
But whether they're actually my favorite, or whatever.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I mean,
and I'm gonna go with Brian Michael Bendis' Ultimate Spider-Man.
Okay. Yeah.
I read the first couple issues in one of the compendiums, and I'm like, this is kind of goofy. I feel like this is I'm being written down to.
Yeah.
But once it kind of got into its groove, I don't know what it was about that story.
Yeah.
I could not put it down.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's basically a reboot of the Amazing Spider-Man. Stan Lee's Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And they retell the origin story. They kind of modernize it.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Like Peter Parker. Peter Parker is a computer programmer. He's not a photographer. So he works on the newspaper's website.
Yeah.
The biggest letdown of that whole story is Green Goblin. And he's actually he turns into this monster.
He's a hulkish sort of.
Right.
Yeah.
I just didn't.
Not for you.
Didn't do it for me.
Sure. But it's a long run.
It's a very long run. And one of the reasons I mentioned it is that I think it's a really solid. If you haven't read any Spider-Man and you want to read Spider-Man, it's a cool place to start because it's an easy read.
Yeah.
It's modern enough. Like if you started with Amazing Spider-Man #1.
Oh yeah, of course.
It doesn't translate like it used to unless you're a big fan of the character.
Sure.
But Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah,
you gotta dig it.
Yeah, I liked that. I didn't read the whole run, but I read quite a bit of it. I read a few of the books, and it was one thing that was cool. I had to get into it as well.
Yeah,
but I felt like once I got into it, like once I sort of accepted the art's kind of cartoonish or something. It's sort of
it's a little smooth. The eyes are exaggerated a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, but once you get into that world, it's very immersive.
And,
right.
Well, my favorite thing about Ultimate Spider-Man is that they right off the bat they start introducing characters like Kingpin.
Yeah.
He's one of the main villains early on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. Iron Man shows up
that's right.
briefly in one. At one point, Spider-Man, like this was early 2000s when when this was released. At one point, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, swinging through New York, and he sees a movie being filmed. Tobey Maguire playing Spider-Man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's right.
The
that's
pop culture nods and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And as lame as it is for me to say it, like I just love that comic book.
Yeah.
It's like eating candy almost.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. And that's an interesting thing, right? I mean, the variety of what you get out of different comic titles, different runs, whatever, different authors is just crazy. I mean, you've got Batman Year One, which is very gritty. The art is very sort of flat and dark and atmospheric and things like that. And then you've got Ultimate Spider-Man.
And I'd like to point out how funny it is. The two that I've mentioned and the two that you mentioned are just could not be more polarizing.
Yeah, sure.
But at the same time, like if Batman Year One is not on my list. But if you told me to pick between Batman Year One and Ultimate Spider-Man, I'd pick Batman Year One.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Just to give, that's the world I'm working in.
And
right now.
they give you different things, right? So some books give you this sort of dark. They give you something to think about. They're sort of heavy. You sort of take them seriously, right, as an adult. And then other books are fun. You know what I mean? They're escapist. You know,
and what's interesting about Ultimate Spider-Man, though, as fun as it is, it goes places.
It gets kind of grisly, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean nobody's really safe, and
that's right. Yeah,
well, that is true.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say how that arc ends, but it's not pretty. You know?
Yeah. But yeah, that was a great book as well. All right, so moving on to my next choice. This is also going to be an Ed Brubaker book, or primarily this is going to be an entire title. So this was a title that ran for 40 issues, and it is just this could maybe be my favorite. All these could maybe be my favorite, but it's Gotham Central. And it's by Ed Brubaker and Greg Rucka, with art by Michael Lark. And again, Ed Brubaker's like one of my favorites. He's going to appear multiple times on my list.
He's great. I mean, you could imagine Ed Brubaker writing like top-notch crime novels.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Greg Rucka actually does that.
Oh, that's right. He writes novels.
He's a crime novel author.
Yeah, and so the setup, if you haven't read any Gotham Central, the setup is it's in Gotham, which is Batman's town, so it's in the Batman universe. But the focus of the book is on the cops, right? So Gotham Central being the Gotham Police Department. And so it follows specific agents, officers, detectives, exploring Gotham and working on crimes and things like this. And the sort of typical staple Batman characters are peripheral. Batman shows up for a couple of frames, a couple of panels, and he's in the shadows, and you don't really see him. He says one or two things.
Yeah.
And they play on what it would be like to be a cop in Gotham City.
Well, I mean, imagine Batman's rogues gallery. Like you have, like the Joker, who is probably if the Joker existed, would be your worst nightmare.
That would
right?
be awful. Yeah, of course.
Batman. Batman's character, like, you don't fear for Batman.
Yeah.
You just don't.
You don't.
He's Batman.
He'll be fine.
Yeah. But, like, just an officer of the law?
Some cop? Yeah.
How does some cop deal with the Joker?
Of course. Yeah. So, like, the opening issue number 1 of the Gotham Central run, is these two cops who have been working a long shift, and they're following a lead that they think is probably nothing. It's just like, let's just follow it up, whatever. They go to this apartment complex and knock on the door, and some random guy opens the door, and they start questioning him. And inside the apartment is Mr. Freeze.
Right.
And Freeze is one front of them and kills him.
Breaks him into pieces.
And then freezes the hands of the other one.
Right.
With the gun drawn. Right.
Leaving him alive. Yeah.
Leaving him alive. And so it's like this, you know.
You have to go through that, the surviving cops, like survivor's guilt.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And
they
it doesn't
touch on all of those things.
Exactly. And you don't follow Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze takes off. Who knows where he goes? You sit with the cops while they're doing follow-up on, you know, what happened here, why would this have happened, whatever. They deal with some of, like, the resentment of the cops for Batman. Like, they don't want him to turn the bat signal on. They want to do it. They want the people to know that the cops are in control, all this kind of thing. Just a great book. It's just fantastic. So that's my next pick is Gotham Central. If you haven't checked it out, go check that out for sure.
Okay, so my next pick is actually a pretty current comic.
Okay.
And it actually got discontinued, which is a shame because it's one of, like, that's another one of those comics that was just like, they took a hero comic and made it very character driven. Yeah. And then it really kind of got inside the head and the life of this one person, but they made it really fun. Okay. And that's Hawkeye. Yeah. Okay. Written by Matt Fraction. That's right. And I think the artist was David or Aja.
Okay. AJA? Yeah, that sounds right.
Is it David?
I think so. I can't remember.
But the artwork is very similar to that of like a Mazzucchelli or
from
somebody
year
like
one.
that.
Mm-hmm.
But the premise is like Hawkeye is the lamest Avenger.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He doesn't have a mask.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a lot of money.
That's right.
He shoots trick arrows.
He shoots arrows.
And here he is hanging out with you know, a god of thunder.
Yeah.
A man in a suit made of iron.
Yeah.
And
who's a genius.
And Captain America.
Captain America, yeah.
And then you have this guy that shoots trick arrows.
That's right.
And each issue started out with him going, okay, this looks bad.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And it starts in medias res, which means in the middle of the action.
Oh, watch out. Yeah. Terminology.
But that book, just the way they kind of play up the fact that this is ridiculous. Yeah. He's getting into these crazy scenarios. Yeah. He's always getting really hurt. He's not very reliable, so people kind of don't like him. Yeah. It's like such an interesting way to write a Marvel hero book. Yeah. And I think Matt Fraction may have left the title, but if the MCU made a Marvel movie with Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye,
oh come on,
and they just made it kind of like this James Bond, like
yes,
I would watch that movie 10 times over.
That would be phenomenal. That would be great.
So I think the first trade's called My Life as a Weapon.
Yes, it is.
So it's Hawkeye Volume 1. Yeah. Highly recommend it.
Absolutely.
The art isn't like a Jim Lee or something like. It's very simple, very kind of sketchy. All the colors are simple. Yeah. And that's something I probably wouldn't have been into 2 or 3 years ago. But
not a whole lot of depth.
Right.
Kind of
but
thing.
As of late, it's like that's what gets me going. It's like that Batgirl Year One's kind of like that. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, yeah. That's my pick.
Oh, Hawkeye was great. Yeah, absolutely. So my next pick, this will be my 4th pick out of 5, is going to be Surprise, another Ed Brubaker book. But this one is creator owned. So he came up with what that means. Essentially, it's not a hero book. Really, it's not about a superhero. Well, it kind of is. It walks this interesting line. Nevertheless,
a creator owned book can be about a superhero.
Oh, it can be. Yeah,
but
absolutely.
it can't be your staple.
Absolutely.
Belong to the public kind of.
Yeah, it's not Superman. It's not the Green Lantern. Right. This kind of thing. So these are creator created, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah. He created the characters. They're brand new. And the book is called Sleeper. And so it's sort of a hero book. I mean, there are people in it who have powers and whatnot. But it really focuses, like a lot of Brubaker stuff, more on the sort of interactions between them as people, and not really about, whatever they can do. So the setup for this, it's about a guy named Holden Carver, who is a double agent, and he's working for some government organization, but he's become a sleeper agent in this organized crime and organized terrorist organization. And only one person knows that he's not really a terrorist. And the book opens at a point where his one contact in the government is in a coma. So he's stuck. He's stuck in this terrorist crime organization, and his one contact is in a coma, and so no one knows he's really not a terrorist. And just a great book, great setup. It's a pretty short run. It's like 2 trade books.
Yeah.
But just fantastic.
Yeah, you've been telling me about that book for quite a while now, and I actually haven't read it yet. So
yeah, it's very, very good.
I'm excited to read that one.
Absolutely, and it's got art by Sean Phillips, who does a lot with Ed Brubaker, and his art's great as well. He did Fatale and Incognito also, so real good. So check out Sleeper if you get a chance.
Okay, just a little disclaimer. There may be some rumbles maybe on these mics. There is a band across the hall right now, so
and I think this is a great time to say, as always,
this episode is brought to you by Butchertown Studios.
Exactly. So if you need a place to practice, right, to rehearse, for your band,
we do rehearsal spots.
Yeah.
We do just mixes. We do tracking.
Yeah.
We'll do like pre-production, like songwriting, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Or if you just want your podcast to sound as good as this podcast sounds.
Right. If you wanna make a podcast that sounds like the pros.
That's right. That's right.
You can come here. So
you are on your. How are you numbering yours?
I was going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so
I'm on 2.
You're on 2. Okay, so this is the first of 2 that are sort of big names.
The big names. And I've decided for my number 2, I'm gonna. These are both the same character.
Okay.
One of these is a staple.
Yeah.
The other one isn't as much.
Okay.
But to me, it's like one of those comics. When you read it, it's like, dude.
Yeah.
It's like the first time I watched Taken.
So Liam Neeson's in it.
Yeah, this is a so the first one I'm going to add. Let's just go ahead and start with a staple.
Okay. Yeah.
Daredevil: Born Again.
Yeah.
By Frank Miller.
Yes. Okay.
Now, this is a run. Well, first of all, let's start by saying Daredevil is probably the most crapped on hero in at least Marvel history, right?
You mean like in his stories?
Like not like the character.
Not like people don't like him, but like
the writers apparently just don't like Matt Murdock and Daredevil.
They just put him through hell all the time.
Right. So this is just another one of those runs, but this was probably the run that did for Daredevil, either this or Frank Miller's earlier run on Daredevil, but did for Daredevil what Year One did for Batman.
Sure, yeah.
And essentially in this book, everything's taken away from Matt Murdock.
Yeah.
He starts to even question his sanity. His law firm is burnt to the ground.
Oh, right.
I think it was a Kingpin story, probably.
I think so, yeah.
Wilson,
I think that's right.
But most of, whenever you think of Daredevil and his biggest enemies, it's either Kingpin or Bullseye, right?
Yeah.
Because Bullseye does a very specific thing and takes away a very specific person in another run, later run. And I'm not going to say what happens in that book and who dies.
Sure.
Because this new... If you're not familiar with Daredevil stories, Netflix is coming out with an exclusive Daredevil show.
Oh my gosh!
And this show is going to be pretty gritty because the origins of Daredevil. It's just a gritty book.
Yeah, it's great.
He's one of my favorite heroes, hands down.
Absolutely.
And this person who is very close to Matt Murdock, who dies by the hands of Bullseye.
Yeah.
I think it's Bullseye. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah. It's been a while since I've read that run, but
has been cast in this new Daredevil show.
Okay, yeah.
And I was just thinking,
so you don't want to spoil that for anybody.
Two characters that's happened, but I don't think I think they were both Bullseye.
Okay.
Bullseye, you jerk.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're looking for canon Daredevil to get hyped for this show coming out,
which you should be,
I would highly recommend Frank Miller's Born Again.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
And to piggyback off of that one, I'm going to
this still counts as your number 2. You're just doubling up.
And I'm not
Gotcha.
I'm not sure if I want to say this one I'm going to mention I enjoy more so.
Sure. Yeah.
Because of what Born Again kind of means to the character.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's Ed Brubaker.
Oh.
The book is called it's volume 1. It's called The Devil Inside and Out.
Oh, yeah.
It's Ed Brubaker and Michael Lark.
Uh-huh.
And essentially
so that's the same team as on Gotham Central that I mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The press has has been questioning whether Matt Murdock is Daredevil for a long time.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And because of this, it's like an innocent until proven guilty thing.
Sure.
But he's been arrested and he's been imprisoned. So he's in prison with all of these gnarly people he's put in prison.
Yeah. As Daredevil. Yeah. Or as Matt Murdock, because he's a lawyer, right? Yeah.
Right. Either way.
Uh-huh.
And it's just one of those things where he's stuck, or all of these villains are stuck in prison with Matt Murdock.
Yeah.
So like he plays the weak, scared guy until he needs something. Yeah. And he just, he kicks butt and takes names in prison. It's such a great run.
That was a great one.
And I think, not to spoil it, but spoilers, he ends up getting out of prison because Iron Fist has been dressing as Daredevil on the streets.
Oh, right. That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
And Marvel's doing an Iron Fist
very cool
show, too.
Yeah.
So, Daredevil is one of my favorites.
Absolutely.
Those are probably my favorite two...
favorite two Daredevils?
Yeah, favorite two Daredevils.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but that's a band called Manic Method.
Yeah.
And
they're rehearsing.
They're rocking hard.
They're rehearsing and rocking hard.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad Daredevil made it onto the list. He's a fantastic character. So I'm really glad.
Almost he was that duo was going to be my number 1 actually.
Oh, really? Yeah.
But I had to go with something else.
Yeah, sure.
So do you want to rock your number 1?
All right. Yeah.
Or
so
maybe not your number 1.
Yeah, but just my last one that I'm talking about. So these are mine are in no particular order, but. Several of these I've said could be my favorite, but this one is just really a classic. It's Batman: The Long Halloween by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. Mm-hmm. And man, it's a 12-issue run that they did, a sort of special series.
It's a thick book too.
It is. It's a thick book. It's 12 issues, but it's totally self-contained. It's like a murder mystery. Someone named Holiday is murdering people on specific holidays, so like Valentine's Day, Christmas, all this stuff, and they use it as sort of an excuse to draw in all the classic.
They bring out all the big guns.
They bring in everybody. And it's sort of, I heard somebody refer to it as the Godfather of Batman stories.
Nice.
And it is. It's a mafia story. You know what I mean? But it's just really great. It's got the mystery aspect to it. It's got all your favorite sort of A-list Batman bad guys, rogues gallery. It's got some really great stuff. It has an origin story for Harvey Dent in there. A lot of focus on Harvey Dent. And this book was really probably the biggest, I think, influence on The Dark Knight, the movie. Just in terms of, the rise and fall of Harvey Dent and turning into Two-Face and all this stuff. Just so good. And
the artwork is really interesting.
Yes, I was going to say.
That's what Tim Sale's style is, one of those styles that...
Yeah.
Well, first of all, with that book, I burned through it in a sitting.
Yeah.
Just
so good.
It's a really thick book, but it was just like one of those where you just kind of kept driving. You didn't know who you were going to see on the next page.
Exactly. Yeah.
The Joker makes an appearance. You've got
Scarecrow,
Poison Ivy.
Yeah. Who
Everyone
else?
else.
Catwoman, Two-Face, Penguin.
But I mean, if you've ever seen a picture of the Joker with just a way more teeth than you think he should have, that was probably Tim Sale.
Probably, yeah.
And Batman, sometimes his cowl, the horns on his cowl are just really long. It's very exaggerated.
It's exaggerated, yeah.
But there's just something about the way that book is drawn.
Absolutely.
That's just timeless.
It creates a mood. So it's another one that artistically, art-wise, visual art-wise, I had to get into. But once you get into it and you get into that world, it's very emotive. The drawing is very sort of emotional in some sort of way.
Right.
It represents almost this very strange, sort of Tim Burton-y kind of world.
Yeah,
right.
And that's true. Yeah. And I think that book really kind of opened up. Or allowed for something like a Tim Burton Batman to make sense. Well, when was that
I don't know.
written?
I was going to say, I don't know.
Who inspired the other? Because there's definitely...
there's inspiration in one direction or the other.
Well, if you look at... Tim Burton made... whenever he was in pre-production for Batman and Batman Returns, he did a lot of original artwork. And some of it is, pretty... spot on, very Tim Sale.
Oh, see, so this was 97. So this would have been post Tim Burton.
So thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
Tim, thanks, Tim.
Surely he had some influence. But anyway, it's a really great book, and if you like Batman at all, I mean, goodness, you just have to read it. So
absolutely,
it's so great. So that's my list, man.
That's great.
We got one more from you, right?
Yep.
All right.
I'm dropping the big guns on this one.
Yeah.
Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns.
Oh, you knew it had to be on there somewhere.
It had to be on there.
Yeah.
Now that's the Bible of comic books.
That's it, man.
And let me tell you what I love the most about this comic book. Mm-hmm. Just to go on a little rant. So imagine you're thinking of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? You're thinking about what they have the rights to, and that they're huge blockbuster movies, right?
Sure.
So they've had to build this empire of blockbuster movies.
Yeah.
To first of all, they started with Iron Man.
Yeah.
And then they introduced you to a God of Thunder, Thor.
Sure.
Who, it's just... These aren't household names. Maybe Captain America is, but Iron Man wasn't really before the first movie.
No, but that made him. Yeah.
Right. So they've built this empire of, I wouldn't call them B-list characters, but smaller characters.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Flip over to DC.
Yeah.
You say Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to have ever read a comic book, watched a movie or anything to know who these characters are.
You know who they are, yeah.
And in my opinion, Batman and Superman is the greatest bromance of all time. Of human history. And I guess we'll get into a little spoilers. I'm not going to go too deep into it because you should read it if you haven't read it. But
absolutely.
Essentially, to make a long story short, in the future, Batman has retired.
Yeah.
He's older. And this is supposed to take place within the world of Year One.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, Batman is called upon, essentially, or decides he has to come back.
Yeah. Come out of retirement.
Defend his city.
That's right.
And you can just tell, there's just joy.
Oh,
there's just something psychologically wrong with how much he enjoys. Maybe, he's like, I don't kill.
Yeah.
But I will crush your leg to where you can't walk anymore.
Of course.
If you're a bad guy.
He's still brutal.
It's a strange thing. But Superman, on the other hand, is the polar opposite of that character.
Absolutely.
And in this book, Superman's working for the U.S. government, right?
Yep.
And he's basically their gun.
Yeah, he's helping with foreign policy. He's doing, he's doing all these. Yeah.
So at this point, Superman,
the American way,
right? Superman's the kind of character that he holds so much power. He's essentially a god.
Sure.
Which I'm surprised Watchmen didn't make this list. But like Dr. Manhattan. That kind of stuff. So you have Superman who has every like he could just crush and kill
Yeah.
Batman. He just could.
Oh, of course.
But
Yeah.
what's
yeah.
beautiful about their relationship is that Superman just could not,
Yeah.
could not kill his greatest
Of
friend.
course. Yeah.
And at the end of the book, there's a moment
Spoilers.
where big spoilers.
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne is in a coffin.
Yeah.
Because essentially they had this huge battle.
Yeah.
Batman and Superman.
It's very epic.
It was this huge battle, and the whole time, Batman. So there's like some sort of like kind of nuclear winter, right? To where the sun isn't peeking through that much these days.
Weakens Superman a little bit. Mm-hmm.
And Superman is a little bit weaker.
Yeah.
Batman develops this basically Superman suit.
Yeah.
To where he fights Superman with it.
Sure.
He uses kryptonite. He brings out all the stops.
Yeah.
And he's still barely a match for Superman.
Yeah, just barely.
And they're basically destroying this part of town, like fighting each other.
Yeah.
And because Clark has such a kind of deep love for Bruce, Batman beats him down.
Yeah.
And he's got his hand around his throat, and he says, basically, I just want you to remember that the one person that beat you was me.
Yeah.
But then he has like a heart attack.
He has
'cause
a
he's
heart
an old
attack,
man.
essentially. Yeah, he's in his early 60s or late 50s, something like that in the book. Yeah.
So they're at his funeral.
Yeah.
And the new Robin, Carrie Kelly.
Carrie Kelly, yeah.
Is there, and they're at the funeral, and there's Clark Kent standing there, basically tears in his eyes because his best friend is dead. And the government has been anti-Batman this whole time, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
They're like, he's a menace. He can't be here. Superman, you have to take care of this guy before he ruins everything.
Yeah.
And Superman, that's his duty to the country. And so right before they walk away from this funeral, Superman with a super hearing hears a heartbeat underneath the coffin.
Yeah.
And then there's a smirk, and he and Carrie share this look, and Superman basically just winks and walks away.
Yeah.
Knowing that Bruce is alive.
He knows Bruce is alive.
That they've basically orchestrated his Batman's death without Clark knowing.
Yeah.
And Batman's going to go underground and build this Bat army.
Yeah.
And Clark's not going to stop him.
Yes.
Because
exactly.
he's like, finally, there's this thing. Batman's supposedly dead. I can finally not have to fight my friend anymore.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's just just one of the greatest moments in comics.
Oh, it really is. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is one of the. There's so many things you could say about this book. I mean, this is one of the books that starts the sort of dark and gritty. Not just Batman, but superheroes in general. Right. This is one of the big two. And also, just in terms of what you're talking about, I mean, the dynamics between Superman and Batman in terms of Superman represents the law. He represents sort of the structure of society.
The way
and
I
all
like
this stuff.
The way I like to think of it, the way they view criminal lowlifes, right?
Yeah.
Batman's perspective is everyone's evil. And you have to do what you have to do to make sure that evil stays crushed down to where it doesn't hurt too much. Superman's perspective is everyone has good in them, and you just have to give them a chance.
Absolutely.
But if you have to stop somebody, you have to stop somebody.
Yeah.
So it's just completely opposing
different worldviews,
ideologies.
Yep.
It's just
fantastic.
You know, that being said, Batman versus Superman, there's a lot of potential for that movie.
Sure.
Because Zack Snyder has cited this story, The Dark Knight Returns, as an influence on the feel of the movie. They're not going to. I'm sure they're not going to do that movie, but there's a lot of potential.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
If you want to get excited for that movie, read this book.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns.
Absolutely. So I mean, that's a strong way to finish out this list. So that's one of the greats. If you haven't read it, what are you doing? Go read it.
What are you living under a rock?
Yeah, where have you been? I do have a couple of honorable mentions that I don't even want to talk about. I just want to mention. Yeah. Maybe we'll talk about them on a future podcast. But so here were my honorable mentions. One was Mark Waid's run on Daredevil.
Oh yeah.
It's fun. It's a lighter take on Daredevil.
Essentially, quickly.
Yeah.
Mark Waid decided that he was tired of Daredevil being crapped on.
Yeah.
So he spun it a different way.
Spun it around.
And it still completely works.
Oh, yeah. It's great.
Completely works.
Honors the character. It's really good. Another one we've already sort of briefly mentioned was Watchmen. Watchmen is just, along with
comic book canon.
Absolutely. Along with Dark Knight Returns, it's one of the big two.
Right, yeah, and both of those books are both studied in universities with graphic novel courses.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's fantastic. Go read it. It's heavy, man. It gets into different philosophical notions of the world and ethics and all. I mean it's just great. So
there isn't really a good guy.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
just not, because it's too real.
Everyone's three-dimensional in that book. Yeah, it's great. Let's see. Do you have an honorable mention or two?
I have.
Okay.
Like 3.
Okay, cool. Do you want to do those? Or do you want me to finish up and then you go?
I'll go.
Okay, go for it.
I'd like to mention a current comic that's been around for a couple years now. It's ongoing, still going. It was going to make my top 5 just because it's such a kind of a groundbreaking book. But that's Saga by Brian K. Vaughan.
Right.
Brian K. Vaughan's the author of Why the Last Man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And a few other really great creator-owned books. He's also done some hero books as well. But Saga is like this weird, perverse Star Wars for a new generation.
Yeah. Sort of a space opera, something like that. I don't know.
Space opera, and I heard him talk about Saga on a panel once with Scott Snyder, and he was saying that essentially his writing process starts with a silly idea. And the silly idea was, what if you had these creatures with horns and these creatures with wings who hated each other, and two of them mated and made a baby. Like, what does that mean socially? And
does a baby have wings and horns?
Both.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
And the book is told from the perspective of that baby.
That's right.
At like 5 years old or something.
And it's been doing well, that book.
It's
Saga.
been doing very well.
The
first issue is like a collector's issue now. Which my dad has. So.
Oh, nice.
He just has those.
That's awesome. So that's definitely worth mentioning.
One that has to be mentioned. Is Jeff Loeb's and Jim Lee's Hush.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, Batman Hush.
Batman Hush.
Yeah, of course. That's a great one.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get behind Jim Lee's style, it is the Batman book.
It is. Yeah,
for that kind of visual art.
Yeah, it introduces the character named Hush, obviously,
and it's another one of those books where it's just like an all-star reunion.
Absolutely,
that's just how Jeff Loeb approaches
all your favorite. You want to see Jim Lee draw all your favorite Batman rogues gallery. You're going to see them all. It's great. So, absolutely.
Yeah, I've got one more.
Yeah, go for it.
And the reason I'm adding this one, is because this is my favorite character. Yeah. He may be neck and neck with Daredevil. But I feel like he's kind of gotten the shaft for a long time.
Okay.
And that is Green Arrow.
Oh yeah.
Year One.
Oh yeah.
By Andy Diggle. And that book is one of my favorite Green Arrow books.
Yeah.
Andy Diggle was the writer, and if you watch Arrow, John Diggle was named after.
Oh, is that right?
Andy Diggle.
Oh, that's great. That's cool.
And the book essentially is just, it takes place on the island.
Yeah.
In the show he was on the island for 5 years, but in comic book, canon, depending on if you're going old campy Green Arrow, which was just a Robin Hood ripoff of Batman.
Sure, yeah.
Or if you're going more modern with Andy Diggle's run. Yeah. He's basically he's been thrown out of a boat by one of his good friends because he's like a political. He's a potential like political figure
Yeah.
that needs to be taken care of.
Sure. Yeah.
Because he's this billionaire kid who basically he's like an alcoholic and he just ruins stuff.
Sure.
And he ends up on this island. He like gets a broken arm. He has to fashion his own bow and arrow from like, I want to say it's like car parts or something. But it's just a solid read.
Yeah.
The character of Oliver Green.
Oliver Green.
That's funny. Oliver Queen
yeah.
is one of my favorite depictions of the character for that.
Oh,
one.
yeah.
So I guess that's my last one.
Cool. Yeah, I just have like two more I'll mention really quickly. One is Civil War. We talked about that.
Yep.
It's great. It's they're making a movie under that title based on the thing.
And I'm sure it's going to be a similar story form fitted for the MCU.
Yeah, and it's essentially, I mean, if you want to break it down without talking about it in much detail, it's Iron Man versus Captain America. Essentially,
right.
The Marvel heroes split over an issue about whether they have to register with the government or not.
Yeah, but this just Marvel just acquired Spider-Man.
That's right.
For that story.
That's right.
So you can expect to see Spider-Man in that movie. It's just a good time to be a comic book fan. It
really is. All right, so my last honorable mention, and I'll leave it at this, is Alan Moore's The Killing Joke. It's sort of...
that was going to be one of my honorable mentions.
Definitive Joker story.
Yeah.
It's just so great. It's really short. It's like one issue, or it's a little longer maybe, but
it's
really short.
It's super controversial.
Yeah.
You know, some stuff happens to Barbara Gordon, who's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
And it's pretty horrific.
Yeah, it's awful. It's dark.
It's very dark.
It explores the Joker as this character who sort of doesn't see any meaning in the world and thinks that life is just sort of a cruel joke. So why not just go around just maiming and destroying people's lives?
It's written by the same guy who wrote Watchmen, Alan Moore.
Yeah.
So there are some parallels, I think, there between...
Like the themes he covers.
Exactly,
yeah. Absolutely. Well, cool. I think that does it. Does that do it?
Yeah, I mean...
Fantastic.
If you've listened through this whole thing, we're not expecting great numbers.
Yeah. This is for us. We wanted to talk about this, you know?
If you're into comic books, or if you want to get into comic books, I think this is a great gateway. I think we have a little something for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Go out and read all 10 that we talked about, and if you're into comic books. If you're not, pick one, man. We think all these are good. So, if you're not into comic books, pick one. Go to your library. You don't even have to buy the thing. Just go check it out and read it and see what you think. And if you do that, shoot, comment. Let us know. Let us know what if you read any of these, or if you already have and you disagree, or whatever, man.
Yeah, and another thing I'd like to kind of talk about is the fact that we don't really have... I mean, we have the Villain District... Facebook.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's the best place to spark conversation. Maybe we should.
Oh, sure.
We should put a new Facebook together, like a podcast Facebook, where people can kind of talk and
get a little feedback, get a little conversation going, something like that.
But if not, then we're not going to do that.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that, maybe we won't. But hey, if you've been listening this far, thanks a lot, and hopefully you enjoy it. We'll do little segments like this occasionally, but next week we'll probably be back to our normal format. So
and I think that's true.
Okay.
So you done good, Will.
You done good, Joe. You done good, everybody, for listening. See y'all next time.
Thanks, all 10 of you.
Roll it, DJ.